Welcome back, traders and investors, to Benzinga's pre-market prep, brought to you by MarketFi. I'm your host, Joel Elconin, and I have Cate Long on the line. She's a financial blogger and founder of the Puerto Rico Clearinghouse. She joins us every month or so to comment on the municipal markets and the debt markets. And Cate, boy, do we have a lot of news regarding that.
It's huge this week, Joe. I don't remember a bigger week in a long time.
All right. Well, I know this is not exactly in your wheelhouse, but you're very familiar with debt and restructuring here. And what is your just give us your overall take here on the Greek crisis and the potential effects on the U.S. markets?
Oh, so the Greeks have suffered for years. They have way too much debt. Their economy's, pretty much in sputtering mode for quite a while. They've restructured debt several times since 2010, and this, latest round with the IMF and the European group, they can't meet, and so they've decided to hold this referendum, which is pretty unique. It's important to remember that a sovereign state, a country, has no overarching framework to restructure their debt. So every time something like this happens, it's very messy. You can look at Argentina, Venezuela, but the Greeks, it's just particularly messy. It's particularly hard being part of the European Union.
And what's the alternative for them? If you think about it, I mean, if they do succeed, I mean, and they try and bring back the drachma, I mean, who's going to deal with it? Who would you take a drachma for? A U.S. dollar? I mean, what's the alternative for Greece?
So, there's many systems that run with parallel currencies, and, it's likely if they reintroduce the drachma that a lot of, number one, the government would pay pensions in drachmas. So they would already be infusing a lot of that currency into the system to be used on sort of a ground level basis. But then you have the banks, which, have liabilities and credits from international people. That's where it really gets hard, is transacting outside the country or, across the border. Within the system, it would be just a transition, really, to go from one to the other. A lot of people think there'd be massive inflation. But these things have been done. I mean, over time this has happened, and, these are just substantial structural issues that, the people, but more the government of Greece have to deal with.
If you had to guess, so what do you think the outcome's going to be?
You mean on the referendum?
Or just
on them leaving?
Yeah.
There's been argued for quite some time by scholars that Greece could do a temporary exit, and I think maybe that's what might happen here. Is that on a temporary basis, which could be 10 years. This is bigger frameworks, but they could leave, try and get their economy somewhat stabilized and their wage rates competitive, and over time, if the EU is still intact, they could come back in.
Okay. All right. So that's not the only debt issue in the news here. Puerto Rico scaring the pants off people here. Getting some more news out today. The Puerto Rico's PREPA creditors close to deal to avoid potential default. What's your take on that?
Mm-hmm. Right. So I've been saying for a couple of months that they would make that full payment to PREPA. This is the electric utility. Because if it wasn't made, wherever they got the money, that means the creditors could go to court and force a receiver, basically. Take control. Have a judge take control of the electric utility. And, the main thing is to keep control of the situation. So whatever it took, they would find the money and pay it on that payment. Yesterday and today were also very large payments for the general obligation debt of Puerto Rico. And this, what we call trans, these are short-term loans that banks had given to the Government Development Bank, were paid off. Both the GO and the trans were paid off in the last 2 days. So Puerto Rico's current on its debt. The governor, went to the New York Times on Sunday and made this enormous statement that he was going to try and restructure all the debt. There's just a lot of kabuki going on here. There's a lot of use of the media to send messages to hedge funds, and they did a good job. They scared the whole market pretty well.
All right. So you think that obviously you've been writing about this for a while, that things will come to pass. So perhaps another crisis averted here. And I was reading yesterday that a lot of the debt in Puerto Rico is held by citizens of the country, and a
Right.
lot of their investments and their retirement plans. I mean,
Mhm.
you talk if they if they don't pay that debt. I mean, you're talking just a huge multiplier effect.
That's it. I mean, that's why I find this so stunning on the part of the governor that rather than speaking to the people of his own, you know, commonwealth and directly and calmly saying to them, "We're having problems and we need to figure this out," he went to New York and he just blasted in the national media. That left a lot of people on the island, people, retirees, people that hold these bonds, just totally freaked out. And then the banks yesterday in Puerto Rico had to put out an announcement that they were solvent and that they were backed by the FDIC. So, he created like a panic that was really unnecessary. I mean, everyone has known for a long time this debt has to be dealt with, but to do it the way he did, I think, was very unfortunate and very irresponsible for a leader of a country or a nation or a commonwealth.
You were just there, weren't you?
Yeah. Yeah, they're great people there. It's very different there. It's very beautiful, but everyone speaks Spanish. It's really, I mean, you could call it really a colony in the United States, or I like to think of it more as a backwater. It's not a state. It's connected to the mainland, but it's very different.
Do you so you go there and conduct your research? Who do you speak with when you go over there? Or are you there on vacation?
Oh, no, you go and talk. I talk to people in the government. I talk to people in the media. I talk to people in banks. I met for the first time one of the Puerto Rico Supreme Court judges. It was very nice. There's a whole society there. So you meet and talk to people and sort of see what's going on. It's a
Okay.
little different than what's portrayed in the media.
Yeah, that's
So.
interesting. A first-hand look. Let's go to the muni markets here. And is there an ETF that tracks municipal bonds? I should know that. Is there one, Brentster or Kate? Do you know of an ETF that tracks muni bonds?
Oh, the MUB, I think
Now
is
that
the
makes
one
sense.
you're thinking of.
Yeah,
MUB.
give us your take on the muni bonds.
We've said in the past they kind of trundle along for the most part with treasuries, kind of float along. Um, Still a huge demand for them. Supply had been contracting for years until just recently when supplies increased a little bit because governments have a little more space to issue debt to do infrastructure work or whatever. Um, Still a great space if you have income that you want to, shelter from taxes. That's really where the demand comes from.
Correct.
We have a problem in Illinois. I think we've talked many times, that Illinois has borrowed too much and doesn't collect enough revenue, and that's probably will be on the radar this year as well as Puerto Rico.
You're looking at the haircut that the Muni Bond ETF is taking, 108, 112 to the 108 area. That just doesn't, I mean, if you look at like I mean, it's definitely a decline, but if you look at like the TLT, some of these utilities, they've come off quite a bit more. You think that's because of
hmm
the tax-free status?
Yeah, partly. I also think the flows tend to be more stable.
Mm-hmm.
People aren't running in and out. I mean, the ETF's a little different, right? It's used for different reasons than, say, a mutual fund. But so it's just, people would go to the Treasury, move over to the Treasury complex for liquidity more than they would the municipal one.
What about the utilities here and some of these dividend stocks? I mean, they've taken a pretty good haircut as well.
Yeah, I don't really follow utility stocks, so I don't really have a comment.
Okay.
Which again, they're sort of in that class of more conservative investments.
When is the Fed going to raise interest rates, Kate?
See, I called it, Joe. Right, last December, I said they wouldn't move in June, and
Now
it's
what
a
do you
real question mark here
now what are you
if they'll
saying?
move in September or not. So we'll see. I mean, most people are pointing to September, but the economy has to get moving a little more.
We're not going to let you rest on your laurels here. So that no no hike in September.
Maybe. I mean, the economy just needs to get a little more oomph to it. So winter was rough. People, I think was a lot of pent up spending that we'll see here in the spring, early summer numbers. But then it needs to be sustained.
Well, I guess it's data dependent, right? Is that what
hmm
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And they definitely, the Fed, they definitely look at Europe. They can't, they cannot raise interest rates if Europe is in turmoil because it creates a big, flight to the dollar, which is, they have to be aware of too.
All right, Kate, just any, final comments, on the markets, any words of wisdom for investors out there?
Yeah, just keep it conservative for, part of your portfolio and have fun with the rest.
Okay, all right. Cate Long, financial blogger and founder of the Puerto Rican Clearinghouse, commenting on the Greek debt crisis, Puerto Rico, interest rates, just about everything, Kate. Really appreciate you coming on. I look forward to it when I
Yeah,
see your name on the list for the week, and we'll talk to you again soon.
great. Have a great holiday, Joe.
All right, thank you.